Are you curious about Gestalt language processing? You are not alone. Join me, Corinne Smoose, and Speech Therapy PD for our podcast, The Gestalt Get Together. Our episodes try to balance the enthusiasm and excitement about GLP and its associated intervention ideas, as well as a healthy dose of skepticism about how to understand and integrate this paradigm shift into your career and the field at large. We hope that you can get together with us to learn more about Gestalts.
Welcome to SLP Learning Series, a podcast series presented by SpeechTherapyPD.com. The SLP Learning Series explores various topics of speech-language pathology. Each season dives deeper into a topic with a different host and guests who are leaders in the field. Some topics include stuttering, AAC, sports concussion, teletherapy, ethics, and more. Each episode has an accompanying audio course on SpeechTherapyPD.com and is available for 0.1 ASHA CEUs. Now, come along with us as we look closer into the many topics of speech-language pathology.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to our podcast series called Advocacy for the Whole SLP, presented by SpeechTherapyPD.com. So thanks for joining us for our very first episode, exploring national advocacy trends in speech-language pathology in 2024. So this episode is offered for 0.1 ASHA CEUs. We are your hosts, Dr. Stephanie Reed-Foti
and Jess Hunnemeder.
And we are the co-owners of Speech Story Studios. And before we get started, we have a few items need to be mentioned. We have a few financial and non-financial disclosures. The first one for our financial is I am one of the co-owners of Speech Story Studios and received a speaker's fee from Speech Therapy PD.
And I am also the other co-owner of Speech Story Studios. And I'm also the owner of Pangea Speech Therapy, LLC. And I also received a speaker fee from SpeechTherapyPD.com.
Okay. And then for our non-financial disclosures, I am a member of ASHA, and I'm also a New Jersey Speech, Language, and Hearing Association member.
And I am also an ASHA member, and I'm also part of the Hawaii Speech Language Hearing Association membership as well. And before we get started, we'll also go into a little bit more about who we are. I think that's a little important, kind of going over what we know and who we are. So I'll talk about Dr. Stephanie Reed-Foti. She is a New Jersey state licensed and ASHA certified speech language pathologist for the past 10 years. Stephanie graduated from Kean University with a Bachelor's of Art degree in Communication Science and Disorders in 2012, magna cum laude. Kean University with a Master's of Art degree in Speech Language Pathology 2013, and Kean University 2020 with a doctorate in Speech Language Pathology. Kean in the house. She has experience working with infants, toddlers, preschoolers, school-age children, and adolescents. She has served as speech-language pathologist in a variety of settings, including public elementary school, middle school, preschool, private practice, and home-based New Jersey early intervention. She has extensive knowledge in the areas of stuttering, receptive and expressive language disorders, auditory processing disorders, pragmatic language disorders, alternative augmentative communication, and the development of parent and educational staff training. She has worked with children with a variety of conditions, including but not limited to autism spectrum disorder, apraxia of speech, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, language, attention deficit disorder, and articulation and phonological disorders. It sounds like you are the roundabout SLP in education. Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Oh, thank you it's so fun. It's so nice to hear someone else talk about you. All right. Well, I'm going to do the same thing and talk about you, buddy, next. So we have also Miss Jessica Hunnemeder. And let me tell you about her. She received her undergraduate in 2011 and her master's in 2013 from Kean University. So much Kean. I know, I love it. Jess has a diverse background in early intervention, school-based services, and subacute rehab. She is a firm believer in the power of high-quality, evidence-based therapy for in-person and teletherapy service delivery methods for students and their families. Jess is licensed and has worked in several states across the United States, including Pennsylvania, California, Florida, Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, and Wyoming, and New Jersey.
And New Jersey, yeah.
And New Jersey. In her interactions with Native American, Alaskan, and Hawaiian populations, Jessica prioritizes cultural sensitivity and strives to incorporate culturally relevant approaches into her therapeutic practice. Jessica has presented on several topics, including teletherapy strategies, college hearing screenings, and narratives of children with auditory processing disorders. And when Jess is not working, she can be found exploring her current residential state of Hawaii with her husband as a travel content creator.
Yay. Yay. Yeah. I also forgot to add, though, that Stephanie is a new mommy. So if baby CC ends up chatting in the background, I mean, just be prepared.
Hopefully not. She should be going to sleep now.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed she's asleep. Fingers crossed. All right. So everyone, in order to prepare for this podcast, we went on a deep dive, like not just off the deep end, like we're thinking like Olympic size pool, high dive, all the way, perfectly executed, not just a belly flop, into the world of discovering what is out there in terms of national advocacy. And we want to tell you there's lots of confusion, lots of feelings, but there is information out there. So bear with us, guys, and we'll hopefully get to tell you some of the fun things we learned along the way as well.
Yeah. So as you can probably tell, Steph and I have been, we've been friends for a long time. And we talk about speech stuff all the time too. And so we initially started talking about advocacy as not only like colleagues, but definitely as friends. And we were looking into creating a presentation around the idea of like how to advocate for various needs. And then because we're in similar situations, although I'm in teletherapy, Steph is in person, it's very similar. The difference is like the delivery model, but also, just talking about how it's so different in different states. And then, when we wanted to talk about, we did talk about teletherapy actually recently. So please go back onto Speech Therapy PD's website and look for our conference on burnout in teletherapy, because we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll hit on it towards the end of this presentation. But our idea for this podcast is to kind of start on the larger scale. So therefore, we're starting on the national level. And then if you think of like a funnel, so starting it big and then kind of digging down a little bit more into like the nitty gritty. So starting national, which is what we're talking about today, then the next week, we'll talk about state level. And then after that, we're going to go a little bit lower into like the business level, private practice, medical setting. We're going to have some amazing guests, by the way. So that is the third week. And then the last and final week, we're going to be talking about the individual SLP. So just bear with us. There's going to be a lot of, keep thinking funnel. I'm just making a hand motion where I'm creating a funnel with my hands if you're listening to this later on. The other thing to say is that we will talk mostly about speech language pathologists because that's what we are and that's what we know. We do love our audiologists. Shout out to Dr. Karen, and SLPAs and everyone else involved in the communication disorders and sciences career path. Shout out to everybody who's listening. Thank you so much for listening to us. We hope to have more content in the future to discuss more about everyone else's types of roles in advocacy. But for right now, we're just going to guide the SLP into their own discovery.
Mm-hmm. So continue along that discovery. We want to let you guys know, we can't be in everyone's situation, location, of course. Like I said, I'm here in Jersey, Jess is in Hawaii. We're all in different settings. She's in teletherapy with all different kiddos. She does EI, and also I work in a middle school with preteens. I know, it's crazy, but I love it. But we're hoping to give everyone some information about where to find, reflect on some resources that are available. So kind of just a little background of how we kind of got to this journey is while I was completing my doctorate, I was given an opportunity to get to dive deep and like, especially with policies in the school setting and supervision of grad students and the advocacy efforts to get there. And like, how can we better support you guys? I'm a firm believer, like I love helping you guys build your best confident self. And that starts with our grad students. I don't know, like brings me back to those grad students, like, I don't know anything. But my goal is to help empower you guys, gain that knowledge so you get that clinical gut, and including in the advocacy. So, that's where my passion for this comes and what we want to give to you guys. I know Jess wants to talk about her little backstory.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes to a point where Steph and I are both at least a decade into this career. And I've gone to many different states, not because I'm in the military, just because I can't sit still, but also because Steph's laughing because it's true. It's very true. But also because I think I just love the idea of like learning about different places within the United States and also, worldwide. And I'm interested in specifically statewide policies, but then how does that also go like national wise? And I really like want to know how things work. So I think that's enough about why we decided to do this. Like I said, we're 10 years plus into this career. It's like, not that we don't know how to do the therapy. We know how to do therapy. We're always learning. But now it's like, okay, so what can I do to take a step forward, take a step to help others, and to kind of just be more aware. So throughout this, we're going to start with a couple of segments. The first segment is we're going to go over some background in national advocacy and speech language pathology first. So as we're preparing for this presentation, we wanted to start at the nitty-gritty, the beginning, the meaning, right? So like every other, I guess, millennial would do, is we would go to dictionary.com or Google and literally just type in the word advocacy. In doing so, we have 3 questions that we hopefully can answer within the next hour. Again, please bear with us. Just know that we've barely touched the surface of what can be done at any level, okay? So whether we're talking national, state, or personal advocacy, we're barely touching the surface. This is just kind of a place to guide and present information. So Steph will provide you with the 3 questions that we had.
Yeah. And I know it only seems like 3 questions an hour, but we got a lot of information to pass on to you guys. So the first question we want to cover is, how can speech language pathologists effectively engage with national government bodies to advocate for policy change? The second question we have is, what role do professional organizations play in supporting SLPs and advocacy efforts at the national level? This one got really interesting. I'm excited about that question. And it's more than you think. It's not just one organization. No spoilers. This is my spoiler. What are some and the last question is, what are some common barriers or challenges encountered in advocating at the national level, and how can they be addressed?
Exactly.
That's
so
our
those
goal.
3 questions. Yeah, those 3 questions. And again, feel free, like this is your guide, right? So like we're providing the information as much as we can find. We went on a deep dive. So significance of national advocacy within the field of SLP. When we did the dictionary.com, it said it means to speak or write in favor of, support or urge by argument, and recommend publicly. So some of the examples were he advocated higher salaries for teachers, or the father advocates for his child with disabilities, or Steph's personal favorite.
Oh, I do this pretty frequently. Advocating for late night Taco Bell with my husband,
on the weekends, right?
Crunchwrap we try to do the weekends. Like it happens a lot during the week too. We all
Not gonna lie, I've had it twice this week as well. So advocating.
Again, that's another way of advocating, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Basically, it's just how you get your voice across. So on the same playing field for this, we're on the same playing field for advocacy. Yeah. So when I look a little bit further, because I'm in the teletherapy part, I have a lot of time on the computer. I spend a lot of time playing with artificial intelligence. And with that comes ChatGPT, like all of the ChatGPTs, all of the things, all of the AIs. And I thought it would be kind of cool to see, okay, well, what does artificial intelligence know about advocacy for the SLP? And so I asked it, what are 20 things that would be effective for an SLP to advocate for? And I just wanted to see, I have some feelings. I know Steph has some feelings. I wanted to see if it was on the even playing field. And also I love outlines, and it's very, very great to outline things. However, you still need to put on that human touch. So we're going to list some of the things that ChatGPT had offered, and then also add in our human touch. Okay. So the list from ChatGPT of 20 things that would be effective for advocacy, according to what they're saying. Let's see if it kind of matches what we're feeling as, as SLPs. The first one is increased spending, advocating for increased spending for special education. Duh. Yes, of course. We totally agree. We think that, yes, there should be increased funding for special education. Number one, yes.
Amen.
Got it. Amen. Next one is access to telepractice services, near and dear to my heart. Yes, duh, especially in underserved areas. And that's where my passion kind of drives from. Definitely making sure that we have services and access and good internet access to quality services is top of my list for sure. So those are two. Yes. Thank you, ChatGPT. Next one is Medicare, and we can also add in Medicaid coverage. Yes. I think that there's a lot to say about coverage for speech therapy services. And even when it comes to speech therapy services in telepractice, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. However, having access to services for our clients who are, who have experienced something like a stroke or TBI or, all of that is important. Definitely would love to advocate, especially for SLPs to reimburse for those services at a rate that is appropriate. So yes, 3 for 3 ChatGPT. Thank you so much. The next one is universal newborn hearing screenings. That already happens. So there is
I can attest for that.
Yeah, you had to test for that for sure. So there is something though about another type of hearing screening for newborns that Asha recently did go and discuss, and we'll talk more about that later and where to find some more information. So ChatGPT is a little iffy on the universal newborn hearing screenings. I think that's something that's already happening. Please correct us if we're wrong, but that's happening. Next one is increased research funding. Yes, we agree. Definitely need more research. Every time I read a research article, you have to kind of see where it says at the end, more research is needed, or we need more research because, and they give an answer. Yes, definitely. I definitely advocate for more research funding. There's a ton of information out there. There's a ton of evidence-based practices out there. I think finding where all of those are nicely placed and easily accessible for SLPs is important. Yeah, that's definitely on my list. Okay, so I think we're doing okay, right?
Yeah, I would say even adding the research that's functional for everyday practice. I'm sure I can attest, a lot of people see research and it's very intimidating and it seems very detailed. I'm like, okay, well, how can I apply this to my, my high caseload with my 25-minute sessions every day? How can I really apply this? So
exactly.
Functional research too, right?
Functional. That's such a great word. I love functional.
Right.
I talk about it a lot. So the next one I'm going to talk about is a huge one. Workforce shortage solutions, especially in rural or underserved areas. And in being in so many different states and seeing how so many different states are working, I can definitely say there's certain states that are having such a rough time keeping people keeping SLPs on their, within their state. And it comes down to the way that things are run. It comes down to the way that paperwork is processed. It comes down to how much paperwork, how many students. And we'll talk more about this too, but caseload is a big thing when it comes to school-based. And again, we'll talk mostly about school-based, mostly because that's what we know, but we will add in the information about medical-based as we go through too. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to say about workforce shortage. There's definitely a shortage for sure. And yeah, definitely need to advocate that. So I think we're good so far, like 5 out of the 6 so far from ChatGPT. Great list of advocacy. And then I'm going to let Steph do the next couple.
Yeah. So just to continue on the list, the next one that came up was autism, acceptance and support. So advocating for policies that support individuals with autism spectrum disorder. So it includes early interventions and school-based services. And then I added one other one that's near and dear to my heart is life after 21 services. I feel like that's the one that didn't quite get there. And I think that one's slowly emerging of the need for services. I know it's near and dear to my heart because I have a younger sibling. I mean, she's 32, she's not young, but who still needs services. And we have to really fight for it to go find therapy, especially even speech therapy. It's very hard to find that out there.
Hard.
So, keep adding that. And again, even not just children on the spectrum, but with a lot of other disabilities as well. Let's include we're neurodiversity, include that neurodiversity, include everybody, and getting that advocacy out there for even rare syndromes out there. There's so many special young babies, kids, young adults, older adults. Let's include them all and talk about the change for them. So good job, GTP.
ChatGPT. Yeah, good job. I think for this part too, when I think about 10 years ago, what my services looked like for kiddos, and I'll always say kiddos, that's just who I am as a person. So please don't come at me. But what I was doing 10 years ago for kiddos on the spectrum compared to what I'm doing now, 10 years later has changed significantly. I mean, we used to do different things. Like it used to be autism awareness. We would go to a certain organization to talk about how we're going to advocate for change in supplying these services for kiddos with autism. Well, things have changed a lot in 10 years. It is acceptance. It's acceptance, no longer awareness. I think everybody, and I wouldn't say everybody, but people know what autism is at this point. It's talking about those neurodiversity affirming practices, which is something I personally would like to know more about. But then again, I mean, Steph, do you feel the same way? Like 10 years ago, totally different from what we're doing now.
Oh yeah. I mean, even again, in my personal experience, even in the past 20 years, like I look at my sister, she's minimally verbal. We always thought 20 years ago when she was first diagnosed with children on the spectrum don't want to socialize. Now we've shifted, we don't know how. And even then I see my sister didn't really start socializing until her late 20s. And she had to find her own way of showing it. And I'm like, wow, okay. So we shift our perspective of it and learning the different a different lens of it. Okay, there is a new way of looking at it that will continue that growth that we want to see with that. All right, I'll continue on to number 8.
Go for it.
All right, so the next one is healthcare inequality. So advocating for healthcare equity and access to speech language pathology services for all populations, including minorities and low income areas. I think that's pretty spot on. That's an important topic as well.
Yeah.
And next one I really enjoyed talking about was a public awareness campaign. So advocating for us as SLPs, and talking about communication disorders, the role of SLP. I don't know about you, Jess, but I'm the only SLP in my building, and you have to, I want to say, hey, I'm here, and talk about it, and sometimes it can be a little lonely, and you want to make sure you be aware of, hey, I can help, and what I do, would be nice too.
Yeah. And for this National Speech and Hearing Month.
Is it May? Is it that month already?
It is. Well, for this month, there's lots of different campaigns going on in particular, right? So I think if we take a step back, I'm going to talk a little bit about in grad school, we had to write some type of paper about like a perspective paper. And I was really like hyper focused on the perspectives of the public when it comes to what we do. And I think mostly it was because like I didn't understand everything that we could do. um, and so I just wanted to know more. And it was fascinating. I just kind of poured over all this information and just kind of took it in. And essentially, what it was telling me is that people don't really know what we can do. I literally just learned this year that there is a group, or not a group, but like you could, as an SLP, work mostly in like due process hearings for kiddos who are in, in jails, or even for adult in jail, or, helping those in that position because of language disorders or because of advocacy efforts. Had no idea that was a thing. There is an SLP, that's their whole position, is to help people who are in this situation. And I think that's awesome. But like, again, when I go back and I think about that paper that I wrote about how the public doesn't understand, like they think that we're working on the R's and the S sound and the L sound. And of course we do that. Of course we do that. But like we are speech language pathologists. So definitely like so much into that, where, I mean, I wish I had the percentages or like what it would said. But it was pretty abysmal, truthfully. So anyways.
And Jess, what did your brother call it? What did your brother call us?
Yes. When I was in school, so I'm one of 8 kids, and my youngest brother was like, I was 14 when he was born. So it was very cute. I was going through grad school, and he was like, "Oh, you're going to become a speech paleontologist." So yeah, so work with dinosaurs talking is what it was. Anyways.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, talking about being in that silo, like as a teletherapist, definitely in a silo, I am the one and only speech therapist in my house. I don't leave the house typically, although I do go and I do early intervention on the island, right? So I feel like I personally need to go out and like be around other people, but it's not always like with other speech pathologists. So when there's a chance to do it, I need to, I thrive for it. So yeah, definitely public awareness campaigns. So yay ChatGPT.
Are you taking advantage of our new amazing feature? The certificate tracker. The free CE tracker allows you to keep track of all of your CEUs, whether they are earned with us at speechtherapypd.com or through another provider. Simply upload your certificate to your registered account and you're all set. So come join the fastest growing CE provider, speechtherapypd.com.
From here, I think, Steph, what do you think? Should we just list some of the other things that we had come up with?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to get to the
nitty-gritty
information we want to Yeah. So
okay. So
we'll just highlight it.
Yeah. So okay. So support for individuals with aphasia. I think definitely something that is important. Next one is improved access to AEC devices, for sure. Cultural competency training. Absolutely. Definitely something we should advocate for. Licensure and credential. Huge thing to talk about. So that's that piece. I'll let you go for the next couple, Steph.
Yeah. Another one was school-based services legislation. So advocating for, comprehensive school-based services, so including caseload caps and adequate resources. Oh yeah. Also early intervention programs. So advocating for policy supporting early intervention programs for infants and toddlers with communication delays, supporting dysphagia services, then also mental health and communication. So advocating for integrated mental health and communication services to address the impacts of communication disorders on mental well-being. What about you? That's, I think, a new and a very upcoming, or not, I'm not sure it's upcoming, but it's there, but it's definitely,
it's kind of got more spotlight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also collaboration with other professionals. So advocating for policies that promote interdisciplinary with like SLPs, educators, physicians, You'd be surprised how many, I'm sure we've all collaborated. You never know how you can intertwine what you do with a lot of other people, right? I know one of my favorite person I ever learned I could collaborate with was a recreational therapist. Didn't know I could
That's
do that,
awesome.
but there's some things that intertwine. It was really fun,
That's
magic along the way.
fascinating.
And I'll
Fascinating.
let you wrap it up, Jess.
Yeah,
Last
I
two.
mean, I guess to just talk a little really
Mhm.
quickly about collaborating with the other professionals.
Yeah.
I in Hawaii, in one of the programs, we're able to collaborate with PTs, OTs, in like a service delivery model. So we go together, and we have visits together, and it is so, so awesome. So I hope that lots of other places have this too. I know many others, like other states, do not allow you to bill at the same time, which is super unfortunate, because I feel like having all of that advocacy for the parents and for the families at the same time is awesome. And so the other thing too, I used to work in a hair salon a long time ago, and it was one of my favorite jobs. And I always remember there seeing a sign on one of the stylists, her station, and it said, "I'm a beautician, not a magician." And then years later, I'm sitting and I'm in this EI session with a kiddo and the PT and the OT, and I'm thinking about this sign for some reason. And all of a sudden, so I'm giving strategies to the parent on like, what they can do to help their child communicate. And all of a sudden, this kiddo starts just repeating everything I'm saying. And then I think about the sign and I'm like, I'm a clinician, not a magician, because I'm like, I'm not having him say, I'm just saying it in a different way, right? With the PT and the OT there. So like having that collaboration, making sure that that all of those things happen at the same time, so, so, so important. So anyways, I'm going to step off of that soapbox a little bit. The other thing, sorry, everybody, the other two more things that ChatGPT listed for us was advocacy for evidence-based practices, obviously, for sure. And then also legislation to protect patient rights, obviously. And then also too, legislation to protect SLPs in practice. So getting your insurance, making sure that you're covered. If you start contracting or you do something like that, you need to be covered. Even if you're in the schools, you need to make sure that you're covered, and advocate for that. So,
all important.
yes. Okay, we're going to transition. We're going to transition a little bit here. Steph, take it away.
All right. So we're getting to question number 2, the next part we like to say of saying, so who at the national level can we as SLPs reach out for assistance? So of course, the first one we can all, I'm sure we thought of that crossed our mind is ASHA, American Speech Language. And we like to just, before we start, we are aware of the current, perspectives or trends, thoughts that are going on, through social media or emails or text chains, all those. And we just want to share some of the resources that we did found while going on our deep dive. And our goal is to hopefully just empower you guys as an individual SLP to know there's a little bit more of what's going on. I think just sometimes we kind of go to the wayside, but we want to know that ASHA does have resources out there. You guys can take it however you want to shape it into what you need to be successful as yourself as an SLP. So, and I'm excited for the next one. Jess is going to share that there's actually other national organizations that can help us and support you guys. So I was very excited about that.
Totally. When we think about, like Steph said, when we think about national, first thought is ASHA. I found this one, it's called the Council for Exceptional Children. And this one has existed for a long time as well, but it's mostly geared towards let me just read what the website says. The Council for Exceptional Children is the largest international professional organization dedicated to improving the success of children and youth with disabilities and or gifts and talents. So they also have their own governing bodies. They have their own professional standards, their own professional development, their own ways that they provide for effective practice, right? And they have their own I'm trying to think of, convention. Sorry. Even though it's only 2 in the afternoon for me, I literally wake up 5 o'clock in the morning every single day. So bear with me. But anyways, so yes, so the Council for Exceptional Children is another place where you can go for more information. I found that mostly special education directors or teachers are part of this organization, but it is a great place to go and to just kind of look around and see what's happening at the national level. So when I talk about their governmental policies, they also help to look at legislation. They look at what is available in terms of like what laws are written, what needs to be done. So that is another place. Again, the CEC, they have local units in all 50 states and Canada. They also have special interest divisions, and they focus on things like specialty areas, roles, all of those different types of things. There's also lots of chapters at different colleges and universities. So, like I said, please don't come at me if you know about this already. I've just learned about it. Sorry. I think there are other people in the same boat as both of us, because like, when do you have time to look at things? I don't know. I'm very busy. I know Steph is very busy, like extra busy. So again, we're just going to list it.
Yeah. And again, we hope just to, again, spark the interest. If you're curious about this website, learn about it. And again, you can almost like dissect it and take what you need to empower yourself as SLP. You know, we can always change around to help you guys, support you guys. So again, another organization we came across was the Association of Veterans Affairs, Speech Language Pathologists. So it's an organization for speech language pathologists employed by the VA or the DHA. So I know it's a very specific group, but there's a support out there for you guys. So don't feel like you're ever alone, and get that support. And just quickly, we're going to list some other ones that we found. There's the National Black Association for Speech Language Hearing, the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders, National Center for Hearing Assessment and Management, the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, the American Cleft Palate Craniofacial Association, the National Stuttering Association, which I know I've definitely looked on their website. I'm like, wow, I should look there for more stuff. Then also there's the National Foundation for Swallowing Disorders. So again, these are all other national organizations that, in case you like get stuck on something or you just want to find more information, maybe on a specific area, go explore it. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more out there. Go for it, go explore. You never know what you're going to find. And again, you can always tailor to what you need in your journey as you SLP. So also now I like to start of ways to advocate. So I'm sure you guys are kind of getting to know us through this podcast. And I always thought of myself when it came to advocating, I'm like, oh my God, I could never do it. I am more soft-spoken and just like, okay, let's talk this out. Let's figure out a solution, not as loud. Whereas I'm sure you hear Jess talking and she's like, oh no, this is not how it's going to happen. I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it. I'm sure you can see us being one of 8. You had to be loud.
I had to be very loud. I had to be loud. And I'm the second oldest, first daughter, so I had to be loud. And that's just who I am as a person. And Steph is the oldest of 2. And her house was much quieter than mine. So it's okay.
So again, my goal with advocating of also saying is you don't have to necessarily be the super outgoing, like, wow, you can be the soft-spoken person like me and still voice your opinion in whatever way you feel most comfortable doing it. So the first thing you can definitely always do is, it's very simple, but yet very effective, is write a letter, write it to those legislators. I don't know, it always brings me back to the old Schoolhouse Rock song of, I'm just a bill, and how it starts. Sometimes that one letter can be the spark to get the idea going.
I was hoping you would sing it. Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah.
I don't know if I remember all the lyrics, but I remember the tune and I can see it in my head. But I don't remember all the words.
That's fine.
It's a good thing if I remember.
That's fine.
I have the tune. I'm like, I'm just a bill. So I remember that. I don't remember all the words.
Anyways.
Anywho, we'll feel refocused. So again, of course, as we were preparing for this, we also went to the ASHA website. So we went to the one, I say we were most comfortably know. And on the main page, smack dab in the middle there's a huge tab that's literally just labeled advocacy. So we know it's out there. And this is also where we start the next deep dive, as what to say, or going down the rabbit hole. I'm not sure if anyone's ever really looked on there. I can't say I went too much. I really go on there, just check my CEUs and just make sure I pay my dues, right? And make sure I'm curious. I'm like, what's the policies in this state? So, but it was fun to get to click on that next tab over of advocacy. And there's actually some information out there and, locations and links and tools to go look. So things to look out to. So you can go to Capitol Hill. I know it seems very intimidating. I know if I saw it, whoa, I can't go up there, I'm not a big politics person, but go for it, go advocate, voice your opinion. Another great way to just also start is those little surveys. They do, ASH will send out surveys, voice your opinion on those. It doesn't, you don't have to you can be anonymous, but that's where it starts. And sometimes you'll be surprised, if I do it, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you'll eventually get this big list. And sometimes it just starts with that one voice, which could be yours, or also respond to emails from national organizations. So again, I know, I always say, who's got the time? Who's got the time for that?
Ain't nobody got
I
time.
know. I mean, my time is usually 2:00 in the morning when I can't sleep and I get all those great thoughts in my head. And again, sometimes it can just be a simple email of addressing it to even just another supervisor or another SLP, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? And sometimes it just starts there and it snowballs from there. So just little, hopefully spark some ideas for everybody.
Agreed. And then, okay, so let's talk about this advocacy tab. And again, the reason why we're starting there is because this is our national board, right? Our national place to go. ASHA advocacy is huge. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of things on there. I do go on the ASHA website frequently because I do have lots of questions, specifically with state by state questions, because as a teletherapist, most of the time, or some of the time, you will be working with states that are not your own. So I do go on there often. I still can't say after looking at this website that I have enough information or that I understand everything fully. And I think that's okay to say out loud, because I think if we know everything, then there's nothing moving forward. Yeah. So when I look at this website, when I go to the advocacy website and click right in the middle, you click on advocacy. Right now, there's a little button that says take action right after it describes what the public advocacy policy agenda is. So you can click on that link. You can also click on the take action link. So I, of course, clicked on the take action link because, I have lots of things that I want to say. And they list several pieces of legislature or things that they're hoping to accomplish. And so right now, at this point in time, it says the first one is help advocate for a Medicaid rate increase for North Carolina SLPs. And they're saying it's been over 20 years since there was an increase in North Carolina Medicaid rates for SLP services. And rate today's are an alarming 12% lower than they were in 2003. So I'm literally reading this right off of what's on the advocacy website right now. That's abysmal. That's awful. I mean, who would stay? Who would provide these services? If you're not getting paid what you're I'm a huge advocate for being paid for what you're worth. I have a master's degree. I plan to be paid as if I have a master's degree. Yeah. So that's one of the things that is on the top of this advocacy website at this point. The next one, I don't remember if you remember, I talked earlier about co-sponsoring talking about the newborn hearing screenings. The next one on this list for 2024 says newborns, or it's ask Congress to co-sponsor the Stop CMV Act. And it says newborns with cytomegalovirus are at risk of acquired hearing loss, delayed language acquisition and speech development, and other developmental challenges. Currently, there's no dedicated federal support for state-based efforts to expand access to newborns with CMV. So huge. That's a huge thing that has occurred, right? So there's that. And then I continue to scroll down. If you continue to scroll down, you'll see something that says, make telehealth access permanent for Medicare beneficiaries. And I mean, you've got to know by now, anytime there's advances in telehealth, because it's not going away, it's not leaving. We are here. It is, I mean, for me, it just works for me personally. If it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. But I think that's the thing, is finding the things that work for you. But I personally find that telehealth access works well. So I clicked on this. And when you click on this information, it takes you to another part where on the website, another link where you type in your zip code, and they give a little blurb about what is happening and what they are trying to accomplish with ASHA. And then it'll pull up your senators and representatives. So me being in Hawaii, I have Senator Massey Hirano, Senator Brian Schatz, and Representative Ed Case. And they have this little item where you can put the subject line, and they allow you to type in the message body, but they have a pre-written letter, letter. And that's all you have to do is and you can add in some more information if you want to. So of course I filled it out. Of course I did. And I sent my message, and wouldn't you know, all three of them responded to me. All of them responded back. I mean, it was most likely a pre-canned message, but all of them responded and said, yes, we agree. We've already put this into our plan. We are co-sponsoring. So that little act, even as one person who has a really strong feeling about something, just putting that in there, great place to start. And again, feel free, please go and look on this part here to see if there's anything that kind of sparks your interest. There's tons of pieces here about supporting, something like the Interstate Compact. Huge deal. Pay cuts are everywhere. That's, oh gosh, it's awful. So making sure, like we said, increasing pay. And then I think there was something in here at one point, and somebody had mentioned in the chat about caseload caps and how to advocate for caseload caps too. I want to hold off on that piece for right now. We do want to talk about caseload caps. ASHA did have, we're going to talk in episode 2 about caseload caps.
Yeah.
So please come back. Sorry to kind of start it and then end it. But the reason why is because we'll talk more state specific. From what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, from what I understand, when ASHA did kind of advocate for more caseload caps, what happened was the schools would come back and be like, oh, that means that's your minimum. So we can give you 50 kids who have all these very severe needs. And we were like, actually, no, that's not how it goes. So please also go back and watch if you have a chance, the Burnout in Teletherapy episode on speech therapy PD. We talk a little bit more about caseload caps there as well. So hold that thought. And don't worry,
that's, it's like my personal thing. Especially, I know we saw some hands out there from New Jersey, high caseload, across the board. I've been really advocating for that in my district, and I'll share some ways that I've successfully gotten support. So please bear with us. Come back to the second episode, and I will share.
We'll share
some
more
strategies for that.
We promise. So back to national part. I know Steph talked about going to Capitol Hill. There are groups of SLPs and audiologists, part of a committee of ambassadors. And so essentially these are liaisons who go from every state. They are on a 3-year term, and they go to Capitol Hill to advocate for needs that are specific to state legislators in DC and their constituents. Okay. So if you go to ASHA or just type in Committee of Ambassadors and type in ASHA, Committee of Ambassadors, ASHA, you'll find your state's liaison. That is a great place to get some more information or to talk with somebody who is likely in your state, who I guess has to be in your state, to talk more about the state specific issues. Again, sorry, that's a little bit more state issue, but again, they are heading over to DC, I think next week. So that's in May. That's happening. That's a thing. They go every year. They go to Capitol Hill. So yay, thank you so much for that. Another part, you ready to still go down that rabbit hole? Because I'm still there. So if you're on this website for ASHA advocacy as well, please go after this. Please go. Please let us know if you see something different. But there's parts for things that are happening in the news. There's parts for state requirements, which is where I usually go if I have questions. They have school issues, healthcare issues, professional practice and workforce issues. And then also diversity, equity, inclusion, patient, client, student issues. And then if you go to the bottom, there's something that says, sign up to be a grass tops envoy. There's also see ASHA's guide for becoming an advocate for the profession. Additionally, there's something called an ASHA PAC. So ASHA PAC is a committee. It is part of all of this advocacy piece. They're the part that provides the financial support to candidate committees. So I'm not quite sure about everything that they do. I recommend you head there, find out on your own, report back if you feel so inclined. But ASHA PAC is a thing, it exists, and they're part of the financial support to candidate committees. I am interested mostly in the guide to becoming an advocate for the profession. So again, if you get involved, and I think that's the overwhelming arch of this is become involved. If you have an issue, get involved, ask questions, go there. Ask people. I can't tell you how often I'm on social media. Steph is not on social media. I force her to be on social media.
I'm getting better.
You are, because I'm forcing you. Because I'm forcing you. But if you have questions or you need something, you have to get involved. You have to know a little bit more. I'm at the tippy top of this iceberg, and I still don't feel like I have a full grasp on it. Which is telling me that maybe others are in the same kind of boat, and that is okay. So when we talk, if we go to that link that talks about become an ASHA member advocate, it'll bring you to this other beautiful web page, which some people, we'll talk about a survey in a couple minutes, but that will bring you to more information about what you can do to talk about some of the issues that you're having or to advocate for some of the things that you're wanting to advocate for. I think overall our chat GPT experience worked pretty well in terms of getting the general idea, but everyone has their own specific rainbow of things that they feel, right? So when the only other thing that I'm going to touch base on, and then we're going to end pretty soon, with our survey results is become a grass tops envoy. That was something that I was like, oh, what is that? So essentially,
tell me, Jess, I want to know more.
Well, I hope I know enough, but essentially it's individuals who go to Congress and we talk about some of the legislative issues that are impacting us. So you can become an envoy. They have a flyer on there. They have all sorts of ways to kind of build relationships with people who are making laws and legislation. And then, how to get more involved in the group process that is the laws that go into working in the places that we do. Okay. So again, I'm kind of on a soapbox, and we're going to remind you again, we're just at the tippy top. So our best bet for right now is go to those places and look around. You have questions, look around. Feel free to type in the chat box at any time, or reach out to us or gosh, reach out to the national place. The best bet I would say is to contact people. And so now segment 3, and we're going to have to put this one pretty quickly. So go for it, Steph.
Yeah, we got this. So the last part of the presentation was we wanted to get some perspectives of SLPs in our field and really knowing how others feel and the general consensus. Of course, we're just 2 SLPs in the big field of, there's over 200,000 we have SLPs
I think it's
nationwide.
like 250,000
there we
or
go, that's
more.
what it was. So, 2 of us versus that big number, bigger perspective. So we created a 6-question survey just about advocacy at the national level, and we posted on a couple of different social media. So I did get involved. I did post. I wasn't antisocial.
You did.
And we did. And just before we get into the fun, interesting information we found from it, we're very excited. We got about 58 responses. So we're like, yes. And thank you to the people, right, who came out and filled out that survey. And I'll let Jessica
really.
tell how we found it.
We're really, really stoked. Thank you so much for filling out the survey. It must have sounded really weird, like, hey, please fill out this information from the Facebook group from a random person. But really, it was just to kind of get a deeper dive into like what the perspective was for SLPs in terms of national advocacy. And we can obviously tell that there's lots of strong feelings and lots of confusion. And so let's talk about it. We had 6 questions. The first was, how long have you been an ASHA member? About 58% of people have been an ASHA member for about 10 years. And then the rest, it was kind of like in between less than a year, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and or not a member. So it was pretty evenly between the other ones. I would say between 1 and more than 10 years was the majority of that question. So that's that piece. And then, thinking about all of these national advocacy initiatives or campaigns, we asked how many people have participated in any, or have you actively participated in any of those advocacy initiatives or campaigns? And this is So I guess we'll start with the no. 44.8% of you said no, and I'm not interested in participating. Like, no, you don't want to be involved. Totally okay. I mean, we're busy. We get it. We totally get it. So keep that in mind. And then the other part was 36.2% said, no, but I am interested in participating. That's great. That's great. Wonderful. The other options that we had, 12.1% said yes, occasionally. So yes, occasionally one of our 58 participants said that they do get involved with some of those initiatives. Then we've also got 3% or 5% who were unsure. And then 1% said yes, regularly involved in initiatives and campaigns. And like we said, like, we are just 2 of hundreds of thousands of people who are in this profession. So one thing, it may be another person's thing, like this may be this person's thing, and that's awesome. So cool. But we were just kind of like flabbergasted by this. The other parts were, are you likely to reach out to ASHA for any advocacy concerns, needs, or ideas in the future? A whopping 48.3% said no, nope, not interested, not reaching out. Totally cool. We hear you. 17.2% said yes, I'm going to reach out. And I don't know about you, Steph, but I call ASHA, or not call them, like, hey, ASHA, what's up? I email them pretty consistently. I would say at least 4 to 5 times a year, just because I have questions about things. So I don't know. 31% of you said no, or not sure. You're not sure if you would reach out with any concerns or needs. So something to consider.
It can seem intimidating. Like, I think, like, oh my God, ASHA, like, am I worthy? But like, go for it. They're also SLPs too. Like, you never know. Like, you never know who you can get in contact with.
Yeah. The next questions are, we got some really
great responses.
Ooh, I would say the overarching thing, though, would you say, Steph, is caseload caps and pay?
Yeah, those were definitely the 2 I think a lot of people asked. So the question was like, are there any specific ASHA services or benefits you would value the most and like to see improved? And I'm sure all of us can agree, caseload like CAPS or management, and definitely increased pay across the board.
Yes.
So I think those are the big ones.
There is one. Somebody mentioned making sure that like the info and ads or like on TV dramas or movies would actually portray I don't know if you guys like watch Grey's Anatomy, but the OT is not requesting for a swallow study most of the time. So something to consider. Like that was such a cool answer. I love that. But reimbursement for sure, pay rate, huge thing. And then we'll end with this last question, I think, Steph.
Yeah. And this one was definitely, I think, that stood as
it hurts
most. The question was, do you believe ASHA adequately represents and advocates for the interest of SLPs? And a whopping 75.9% said no. I'm glad these people felt comfortable to express their true feelings. So it's hopefully makes you feel like I'm not the only SLP out there. If that's how you personally feel. A lot of other people agreed with that. And 15% said unsure. Let me see. 1% said, I think they do some, but not enough. And then there's another 1%. I think the organization does not important. And then there was 3% who said yes, but overwhelming said flat out no. So again, we tie it all back in. If you think this is you, get started, and just, again, I know who has the time for that. Again, just starting the exploration of it all, and just if you're that curious, why?
Yes.
Why is that? Or, I say politely question it, like, well, but why do you think that way? And start that, and, and just dig a little deeper. You never know, again, where it can all evolve to.
Yeah.
It started there.
And so, okay, we're gonna end for now. I feel like this may have brought a lot more questions for people, and I think that's a great place to be, because the whole point of this and the whole way that we kind of present is more of like a conversational style, in a way that you can kind of reflect on your own personal beliefs and then also move forward from there. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much for listening to us. We are so appreciative. If you have anything else, we're so happy to be here. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to hopefully seeing you next week.
Thank you for joining us for today's course. To complete the course, you must log into your account and complete the quiz and the survey. If you have indicated that you are part of the ASHA registry and entered both your ASHA number and a complete mailing address in your account profile prior to course completion, we will submit earned CEUs to ASHA. Please allow 1 to 2 months from the completion date for your CEUs to reflect on your ASHA transcript. Please note that if this information is missing, we cannot submit to ASHA on your behalf. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to see you next time. Each episode comes with an accompanying audio course on speechtherapypd.com, available for a 0.1 ASHA CEU. And just for our listeners, get $20 off any subscription with promo code SLPLearn20. SpeechTherapyPD.com is run by SLPs for SLPs. They've got the largest library of ASHA CE eligible courses out there, and they're adding fresh content every week. Remember, use the code SLPLearn20 to get $20 off access to over 1,000 courses for an entire year. Head over to SpeechTherapyPD.com for more information and start earning CEs today. Thanks for tuning in to the SLP Learning Series. And don't forget, SpeechTherapyPD.com is your go-to for all things ASHA CEUs. Your positive reviews and support mean the world to us, and we'd love for you to drop us a quick review and hit that subscribe button.